Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And we'll now proceed with the questioning for Secretary Avalos, and I'll begin. And I think that's important to probably note, and I think you brought up a very important word in intent. We've seen some good cooperative work with the USDA, of course. And I'm encouraged to hear that you are taking into consideration the 61,000 comments that came into play, particularly as it gets down to some of the cost-benefit analysis. Mr. Secretary, in recent testimony before the Senate Agricultural Committee, the USDA Chief Economist Joe Glauber stated that the Department's economic analysis of the rule is difficult given how the regulations could affect behavior by packers and interrogators and how they do business. Given that the Department has now admitted that the rule would have a significant economic impact, will the findings of the economic analysis result in the Department undertaking a new regulatory flexibility analysis?
Congressman, first I want to, or I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, first I want to say that this administration is strongly committed to helping small business, and we strongly support transparency, fairness, and equity in the marketplace. This is really, really important to us. The comments that we received on the proposed rule, they bring up some of these concerns that you just talked about on the small business analysis that Dr. Glauber was talking about. And I guess, once again, what I'm asking is that we have patience, let the time-tested rulemaking process continue, and I can assure you that we are going to listen to these comments, the comments on the cost-benefit analysis that was in the proposed rule, the comments that were on the small business analysis. And I can assure you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, that Dr. Glauber, our chief economist, will have, well, first of all, he will lead the team to develop the cost-benefit analysis, but just as important, he will have considerable input on how this impacts small business.
One question, I guess, that I'm curious about, Mr. Secretary, is once we've taken into consideration those 61,000 comments, and we have that patience, before the rule goes final, will there be a general review coming back to Congress?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this process has really been tedious, and it's a new process for me. Coming from New Mexico, I've never been exposed to something like this, and sometimes you really try your patience. But we received all these comments, okay, then we summarized them, and now we put them in category as to how they impact on specific provisions of the proposed rule. And anyway, having done all that, we're now looking at options, at alternatives. We're looking at possible modifications. And I just don't want to prejudge the rulemaking process. So I can't tell you, what the end product's going to be. Mm-hmm. Okay, I can't tell you, what kind of form the end product will have, and I can't tell you if we're going to have additional comments or not.
As mentioned in the comments from Chairman Graves and myself, the Department's information gathering on small businesses appeared to be inadequate. What procedures will the Department have in place to better measure, number one, the scope of small businesses potentially being impacted, and how these businesses would be impacted compared to their larger rivals?
Mr. Chairman, once again, were you making reference to the letter that came into the Secretary?
Yes, sir.
Well, Mr. Chairman, first of all, I want to acknowledge and to appreciate the considerable thought and effort that was put into the letter. This was really important, but it did have some specific requests and recommendations, and due to the Administrative Procedures Act, I can't discuss right now. But I can tell you this: most of the requests that were in the letter also came up in the comments on the rule and are being considered. I can also tell you that these concerns, requests are on my mind because of how they impact on small businesses, how they impact on growers and producers all over the country. And maybe I should share a story with you, Mr. Chairman. The reason it's on my mind, what's important to me, in the past worked a lot with the livestock industry, did a lot of work to export livestock into Mexico, and I still have friends all over the United States. And in particular, I had an old friend of all places, from Tulia, Texas. They called me up about the proposed rule. And I told them, well, you know, I can't talk about it, but I told him one thing. He was concerned about his operation, how he was getting a premium for his cattle. Small operator, 300 mother cows, part owner of a feedlot, but because of the quality of his cattle, he got a premium. And he was concerned about losing that premium. So I told him, just like I said in my opening statement, Secretary Vilsack and I strongly support value added. We strongly support marketing arrangements, strongly support premiums to producers that produce high quality cattle. So anyway, going back to your question, Congressman, Mr. Chairman, no option is being ruled out. We are really focused on the issues and concerns. We are taking these comments very serious. And I can assure you that at the end of the day, we will fully comply with the provisions of the Farm Bill, the provisions of the Pack and Stockyards Act, Administrative Procedures Act, and the Regulatory Flexibility Act.
Mr. Avalos, you and I are probably two of the only people in this room that know where Tulia, Texas actually is. And, you know, we come from rural America. I'm out of Colorado, and we're actually neighbors pretty close. But during a recent Ag Committee subcommittee meeting, you had stated that you wanted to repopulate rural America as a result of the implementation of the proposed rule. And as I mentioned in my statement, independent studies estimate that the proposed rule would deal $1.5 billion blow to our nation's economy and directly cause the loss of about 23,000 jobs. The majority of these job losses will be found, obviously, in rural America, given the nature of this. And how is this going to help really repopulate rural America?
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate those comments because rural America is very important, not only to me, but to Secretary Vilsack and to the administration. You know, this administration has made revitalizing rural America a priority, keeping farmers and ranchers on the farm and on the ranch a priority. The intent of this proposed rule was to maintain fairness, transparency, equity in the marketplace. The intent was not to hurt producers. Once again, I'll refer back to the 60,000 plus comments that we received. A lot of these concerns were raised in the comments. And again, we're taking these comments very serious. We're not leaving out any options. And as we move forward, the comments will guide us.
Yeah. You know, under the proposed rule, it will be necessary for small packers to determine and document the benefits of contractual terms in order to satisfy the record-keeping requirements that are mandated. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, I want to make sure we get a correct answer to you, so I'm going to defer to Mr. Christian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the intent of the rule was to provide a fair and transparent market for producers, and in particular small producers, that over the years we've heard from don't feel that they have the same access to those markets as some of the larger producers. And so the intent of that provision and others, you know, similar to it, was to provide that level playing field, if you will, and some transparency so they know what type of mechanisms or marketing arrangements are available for them.
Okay. Well, when we're talking about those calculations, To whom are the benefits to be calculated? The packers, producers, consumers? What's kind of the matrix
I beg your pardon, Mr. Chairman,
on that in terms of who are the benefits when we're talking about when those are going to be calculated out? Are the benefits going to be to the packer, the consumers, the producers?
in the cost-benefit analysis? Well, I think that it varies depending on, the particular provision. And Dr. Glover, with the Chief Economist's Office is, in fact, as we speak, undertaking the cost-benefit analysis for the rule based on the comments that we received.
I just have one final question here. Has GIPSA considered the cost for a small packer to engage separate packer buyers for each auction barn with which it currently does business?
Mr. Chairman, I think that's probably getting into the specifics of the rule, but I do know that that's been brought up in the comments. And once again, I'm asking for your patience and the patience of the committee and the stakeholders to let this rulemaking process continue, and let us focus on these issues and concerns that were brought up in the comments, and let us address them. And I can assure you that at the end, the final product, whatever form it is, will take into consideration all these very important